UPod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/UPodStreet, and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPodStreet at checkout, and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold, because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? Welcome to UPod Street. As always, I am your co-host, Jimmy Horn, and joining me is the brunette Thor himself, Jack Bain. Jack, we are coming live during Orioles game. Currently not looking good for our O's, who are down 4-1 going to the bottom of the sixth. Rain has started to pour in Camden Yards, making the entire stadium the bird bath. But how are you feeling this wet Tuesday evening?
Yeah, and certainly not a good week for baseball weather at any level. I can tell you that it's been a scheduling nightmare this week for the Green Terror. Trying to get in our start of our conference season. But yeah, doing all right. Orioles had a pretty good weekend. A lot of good baseball news going on around the league as well. Some really highly anticipated matchups that unfolded over the weekend. Just like right off the top, thinking about the New York Yankees. They seem, 5 games in, but a 4-game sweep of the Astros, and then really putting it on the Diamondbacks last night, who are the defending National League champions. Seemed to be the real deal. Juan Soto was named the MLB Player of the Week, correct, or the American League?
I didn't see. It's probably American League. I don't think they do an MLB Player of the Week. I think it's just by league.
Yeah, and it's like they're really just slugging their way to wins at this point in the season, which is probably going to be most of the season, to be quite honest. Playing in Houston, good hitters ballpark there, short porch and left, and then going right to Arizona where the ball flies. It seems to be working for them. 5-0 to start the season. They don't play again until 10 o'clock tonight out on the West Coast. Other than that, Tigers 4-0 right now. They're playing the Mets currently. Texas Rangers, who lost Josh Young to a wrist fracture in yesterday's game, are 3-1 atop of the AL West. Seattle Mariners, they played a really good series over the weekend against the Red Sox. Red Sox showed a lot of fight against the Mariners. I was kind of surprised. Really low scoring ball games. Pitching was kind of the forte there over the weekend in Seattle. The Atlanta
Red
Braves
Sox had just pause on the Red Sox there for a second. They showed a graphic on the Orioles game earlier today because the Orioles had some sort of ridiculous stat for their starters in the first series of like it was some ridiculous stat of strikeouts to walks. Like the Orioles only gave up the starters only gave up 2 walks, and they had 32 strikeouts or something like that. And the only team that was better than them were the Red Sox, who broke like an MLB record for their walk to strikeout ratio to start a season.
Yeah, the one game that I watched, Nick Pivetta absolutely shoved in. And he made one mistake to J.P. Crawford and let up a solo homer, and that was the only run scored in the entire game. So I mean, good for them for that. Just very deserving of that major league record. I mean, their guys threw well. The Phillies and the Braves squared off to open up the season in Philly, I believe. And
yes,
the Braves just kind of put it on them. I mean, like the first game of the season was rained out for them, played on Friday. It was a really good game going into the 7th inning, and then the Braves offense kind of just woke up and put the Phillies away. Braves took that series. They won 2 out of 3. Mets look awful. Marlins don't look great. But I tell you who did look really good against the said Marlins, Pittsburgh Pirates, 5-0 to start the season. Right now,
Next opponent for the Baltimore Orioles.
yeah. So when Baltimore travels up, that'll be their home opener. Have a little bit more competition for the Pirates. They played the Marlins, and they're currently playing the Nationals. So we'll see what they do against a better team. The Brewers also 4-0. DL Hall pitched in one of their games over the weekend. He went 4 innings, let up 2 runs, I believe. So not horrible. Obviously, he did start the game, which was a different change of pace from Baltimore. So they're probably got him on a pitch count for starting games until he can get stretched out.
I was surprised. I think that was the second game of the year he started. I didn't realize they were going to put him into the number 2 spot in their rotation.
Yeah. Seems like he's still dealing. Got some good life on the fastball. Slider still looks pretty good. So still hoping for him to have a good year. Dodgers, top of the NL West. They are currently playing the Giants. Yamamoto looked all right in his Dodger debut stateside. They opened up in Korea against the Padres, and he didn't look great over there, but looks good back home. And that's kind of what's a very bare bones version of what's going around the league.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because like there's beginning of the year stats in baseball to me are always the most hilarious thing in the world because you have such a small sample size. Like it was something like I noticed on opening day, Mike Trout hit a home run in the first inning. When he came up to bat the next time, they were showing his stats, and he had 1,000 batting average, obviously, but then his OPS was 5,000 and everything, and it's so interesting when you get to the start of the year. There's so much stuff going on. I mean, you didn't even mention the Astros had a no-hitter last night.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like it's kind of just chaos, everything going on. I mean, like, and you don't even have time to cover the off the field stuff. The whole like Ohtani. Is he betting on baseball? Is his translator a fall guy? Like all these things that we don't know that are probably getting investigated, might not get investigated. Who knows? Like, there's just so much going on in baseball right now, which is just, I mean, that's the beginning of the season for you, where you just have to suddenly play catch up and be like, okay, so who's doing well, who's not, like who's hurt, who's healthy, who's playing well to start the season. Like it's so much to catch up on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that no hitter was cool. I watched the last 4 innings of it. A guy that got signed out of, I believe, the Dominican. He's a 30-year-old, has made 8 career starts ever, and was able to throw a no-hitter. And he did it pretty much all on a changeup. Like the changeup he was throwing, just getting pop-ups, ground balls. And he did it. The Astros scored like 10 runs too. So, gave him a lot of room to breathe as well.
The changeup, I don't know, we've talked about in years past in baseball, like there always seems to be a pitch every year. And it seems like the early on this year, it's all been changeups. Like Orioles pitchers are throwing it like crazy. Everyone was noticing Grayson Rodriguez the other day. His changeup was disgustingly good.
Yeah.
You just pointed out like he just threw a no hitter on basically nothing but changeups.
Yeah.
Seems like changeups early on in 2024 is the pitch that everyone's kind of gravitating towards.
Yeah, I mean, changeups are just so effective, especially when you can line up that arm slot with the same as your fastball. So if you can get the changeup coming out of your hand looking like a fastball, and then all of a sudden it falls off the table, it's 10 miles an hour slower than the fastball. Like that seems to be the moneymaker so far. Like you were just saying, I mean, no hitter was thrown. Grayson's doing real well. And I mean, any kind of off-speed pitch, like we saw it with Corbin Burns on opening day, like his arm slot for that curveball looks very, very similar to that fastball. And, we saw 11 strikeouts, and I think 8 out of the 11 were curveballs, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around there was either 7 or 8. But yeah, it's just guys finding the right arm slot, finding what works. Yeah.
Well, let's get into some Orioles news. We kind of started touching on it a little bit. First thing before we get into the games, we talked about it last week on the show. We won't spend a ton of time on it this week, but as we said on Wednesday, MLB did the final approval on the Orioles sale. So the Angelos era in Baltimore is done. Now you have Rubenstein and company taking over the Baltimore Orioles. Lots of fanfare with this. You got a couple, next chapter hype videos. That seems to be the theme for the Orioles this year is we're turning the page. This is the next chapter in Orioles history. Seems to be the theme they're going with. We got a video message from David Rubenstein talking about how excited he is and what his vision for the Orioles is. Even on opening day, Cal Ripken, who's part of the ownership, caught the first pitch. And then, there was a great moment where on opening day, some of the new minority owners were in Pickles Pub and they were buying beer for everyone. They announced, hey, we're buying beer for everyone, which that's the kind of pandering we like to see, Jack. The bunch of millionaires just buying Orioles fans beers. I love it. I'm all here for it.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you think that maybe the Angelos family would have been loved a little bit more if they just bought some folks beer,
Yeah, I mean, beer always helps. But just like something about the atmosphere on opening day. Obviously, I was not there, so you can speak on this if you'd like, but the atmosphere just seemed hopeful and very, very much so like everybody was having one of the better opening days that they've had in a really long time. Also helps that the team's good. But just something to see. Like I only saw videos and I was really, really excited about opening day.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because opening day obviously sell out. It was crazy busy and whatnot. And a lot of times when you have crowds like that, it can get a little testy. People are all up in your personal business, all up in your space. Like people are cutting each other off, getting angry with each other, especially when alcohol is involved, like whatnot. It didn't feel like that on opening day. Like you said, hopeful was a really good way to describe it. Everyone was just kind of in a good mood.
Yeah.
Like I had this guy walk in front of me. I was coming back from the bathroom or something, and he kind of cut me off and immediately turned to me. I was like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry." And he was carrying 4 beers and snacks and stuff like that. He's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to get to my seat before I drop stuff." I was like, "Dude, you're fine. Go enjoy the game, stuff like that." And that's just kind of how everyone was. Everyone was just kind of in a good mood. I mean, you were waiting in line to go to the bathroom and everything, but nobody in line was angry or mad, "Oh, hurry up!" And they're everyone's just "Oh, okay, this is where we are." But hey, we're at opening day. Isn't that great? It's just kind of a good day. Real happy that the weather worked out the way it was. I was super, super, super nervous because I as I said last week, I had family coming in town for opening day, and I didn't want them to be on their way and suddenly find out the game's postponed and all this stuff. I checked the weather first thing in the morning when I woke up. I couldn't sleep. I woke up at 7 a.m. because I was so excited. And when I woke up, first thing I did was weather, and I saw that it was all going east of us. And I immediately screenshotted the radar, sent it to everyone coming. I said, "Let's have a day. Here we go. It's going to happen." And it was just great, man. It was just a really fun atmosphere. And like you said, just a lot of hope surrounding the stadium of all right, we're here and we're here to stay, sort of thing. And all that got highlighted by how the Orioles ended up playing, which was just incredible. I mean, to start off with, yes, it was the Angels. A lot of people kind of tried to ground us where hey, they're being the Angels. It's not that big a deal. But at the same time, Jack, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, right?
Absolutely.
And not only did the Orioles beat them, but they dominated them.
Yeah, and I think there was some nerves going in the first inning, right? You see Trout hit that homer. It's oh boy, how's this gonna go? Those feelings were quickly squashed after the bottom of the first, and the Orioles put up 2 runs of their own, and then it was the Corbin Burnes show. Corbin Burnes show. I mean,
and what a show it was.
Can you ask for anything more than 6 innings, 11 punch outs, 1 hit, and it was a homer.
Jack, I was going to ask you, after his spring training stats that had everyone freaked out, do you think that he quieted all the doubters?
Yeah, I mean, he had to. I mean, whenever you put up double-digit strikeouts in your team debut on opening day, I mean, you have to. Of course, the pessimist would say, let's see him do it again. But right now, you just ride that, oh my God, the curveball was so disgusting. He was locating everything wherever he wanted to. I mean, he would have 1 hit.
1 hit to Mike Trout.
To Mike Trout, the best player of our
Which you get a
generation.
pass. If you give up a hit to Mike Trout, you get a pass for that hit. Like let's face it, you just do. I loved Kevin Brown. Like I went back and I watched the Corbin Burn highlights a million times because they were amazing, and I just love the first strike he had on that curveball, like you talked about. Kevin Brown just goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, that is Corbin Burns in a nutshell."
Yeah,
and I mean, yeah, you touched on the stats. 6 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 run, no walks, 11 strikeouts.
yeah, and he did it in 82 pitches.
Yeah, they literally only took him out probably because they're like, well, it's the first game of the year.
First game of the year.
Let's
Nobody's
not
stretched out.
wear him out.
Yeah, nobody's stretched out. You're not going to go. I mean, 6 innings is a very quality start, especially with 11 punch outs. And with a huge lead too. I mean, when he came out, it was 8-1. Like, no point in keeping him in.
Right. Speaking of which, how about that offense, which just blew up that entire game? I mean, I have it down here. The Orioles scored in the first inning, the second inning, the fourth inning, the sixth inning, and the seventh inning. Adley Rutschman went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs, scored 3 runs. Anthony Santander only went 1 for 4, but that one was a home run. He had 4 RBIs. Cedric Mullins also hit a home run. I mean, the final of this game was 11-3. And I mean, it's hard to highlight everybody when you have an 11-3 win, but there was a lot of offense in that game. Everyone contributed. Like, it was just a really, really fun game to be part of. And that, last year on opening day, it was the Yankees battled back and forth. Orioles ended up winning the game, and it was a good, exciting game, which is great. But I kind of do like on opening day, just leave no doubt, just win the game, have a win on opening day. That's all I care about. I don't want a big, exciting game. Just give me a blowout win so you can just relax and enjoy the atmosphere of opening day.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for the most part, the bullpen looked pretty good too. Mike Baumann walked a guy, but had a scoreless frame. Dylan Tate looked a little shaky in his first appearance in over a year. Just wasn't really locating that well. Then Keegan Aiken sealed the deal with an 8-run lead there in the top of the 9th. Overall,
yeah,
great way to start the year. I think you started out on that really, really high note. You blow out, for the lack of a better term, a pretty poorly ran poverty franchise at this point. Win the games you're supposed to win. Keep it moving.
And I'll say this about the Dylan Tate appearance, because there were some people around me grumbling a little bit as Dylan Tate had struggled. But to me, I wasn't super worried about it. I thought that was the best place to put Dylan Tate in when you're already blowing the team out. And because, the guy hasn't pitched in the major leagues in a year.
Yeah.
He missed all of last year. So it was the right move to bring him in, say, hey, let's get your feet under you again. Like, you might struggle a little bit, but let's have you struggle when we have 11-1 lead right now. Then let's say like a couple of games down the road where it's a tight ball game. Everyone's not rested except for Dylan Tate. Let's throw you into this tight spot where you haven't pitched in a year. I thought it was the total right move. I'm not concerned about the struggles. Like, I think it was more get your feet under you type moment.
Yeah, I don't know how the rest of his outing went this evening.
He did get out of the inning. I don't think he gave up any runs. He had some trouble there when the rain started to hit. Looked like he was having trouble locating because he had already had two outs, and then all of a sudden he let 2 guys on. But then he got out of the inning. So
yeah, I mean, if it's just location issues, that's just getting back into the swing of things, back into, no matter how many times you do it, pitching in a major league ballpark is still probably one of the more difficult things to do. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Probably nothing to worry about. Yeah. So that second game, right?
Also at that game.
Also at that game, wish I was. The Orioles picked up right where they left off, both at the plate and on the mound. I think the offense is going to do what it does every day. I think the most encouraging thing was Grayson Rodriguez.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lights out, gassed up. 6 innings pitched, probably could have gone a little bit farther. Gave up 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, Jack, which is for the first time in Orioles history where their first 2 pitchers of the year each had at least 9 strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, 20 strikeouts from your starting pitchers over 12 innings. I mean, that'll work. That'll work, I guess. I think like you said, like the fastball just had a ton of life on it. I wasn't able to watch this game, so I don't know how much he was using that new changeup he's been working on.
It was pretty frequent. It was
Yeah.
pretty frequent.
Yeah, and maybe I'm messing that up. Maybe he's working on a cutter. I heard him talking on a podcast a couple weeks ago. It's kind of escaping me, but nevertheless, I mean, very efficient. Again, kept the pitch count low at 84. In both his start and Corbin's start, I mean, they could have gone another inning for sure. You're just not going to do that in March.
No.
And then, I mean, at the plate, like Gunnar Henderson got in on the party against the Angels. He was 3 for 4 with a couple RBIs, including a homer. Leadoff homer. Yeah, Adley, who didn't really replicate the game that he had the day before, but he was still 1 for 3, scored 2 runs. Santander had an absolutely huge game, 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. He also hit a home run. And then, you see these young guys kind of get in the game later. Cowser, who pinch hit for Santander. Oh, by the way, Gunnar Henderson was a double short of the cycle.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You almost had the cycle.
He was pinch hit for by Tony Kemp, who has not done that great so far in Orioles uniform.
You mean Orioles legend Tony Kemp?
Orioles legend Tony Kemp. So I think the biggest takeaway from the offense in this game was you had a lot of guys on Thursday afternoon, like Mullins. He got in there with a home run, and like Westberg had a couple RBIs. When these guys don't produce as much as they do, like as much like when they're really firing, have a big game, like, and they don't produce, the next guy's up, right? Like Gunnar, who was pretty quiet at the plate, on opening day, 3 for 4. Austin Hayes was pretty quiet. He was 1 for 4, but he got in on it a little bit. Kind of gotta see one go through. Then Ryan Mountcastle, 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and a walk. Like, it's just like, pass the baton to the next guy. If one guy's down, then another guy's going to be up.
Well, and that's what most experts have said when they've looked at this team. When they look at position players, they consider this probably the most complete team in the MLB, maybe behind the Dodgers, or even on par with the Dodgers. You look at MLB. MLB came out the day before opening day with their experts picks on who's gonna win the World Series and everything like that. And actually, the MLB experts picked the Orioles to edge out the Dodgers in the World Series. We'll see if that actually happens, but that's the preseason pick from MLB based on what all their experts picked. And it all came down to the fact that they were like, this is a complete lineup. When you look at the Orioles positions players, there is very few questions, and there's more on the way. The fact that Jackson Holliday is going to make an appearance at some point this year. You could have Kobe Mayo make an appearance at some point this year. Yeah, like Connor Norby, and the thing is too, if God forbid an injury were to happen this year, knocking on wood that we don't have anything happen as I'm talking, but there's so many guys that can come up and fill. I mean, in the outfield, you have Kjerstad, you have Stowers that can still come up. Infield, already named a few guys that can come up. Like there is so much versatility on this team, and in those first 2 games, they showed it, man. Like you said, if someone was having a bad day, someone picked him up right away. Yeah. And that's what's going to have to happen, especially for the first 2 months of the season or so, while we're waiting on John Means to come back. By the way, John Means already had 1 rehab start in AAA. While we're waiting on Kyle Bradish to come up, the thing that's going to drive this team is going to be that offense.
Absolutely. And then one last note on this game. Just thinking back to last year, one of the Orioles' kind of bugaboos was driving in guys in scoring position. In this game, 6 for 10.
Yeah.
And opening day was no different. So really encouraging to see that getting off to a hot start. Hopefully they can continue that as well.
A 6th inning where you score 9 runs before you record an out, take that any day.
Oh my God, is that what it was?
It was. 6th inning, they did 9 runs before they recorded an out.
Wow.
And then one issue here, Cionel Perez came in relief, left pretty early, grabbing his back. I haven't seen an injury update on him. If anyone has, then I just missed it. Feel free to comment, send it, let us know. Also haven't seen a corresponding move. This was a weird thing, Jack. So remember when we went over our starting lineups and everything like that, we had Nick Vespi in AAA. Because at one point it was announced like, oh, Nick Vespi is being optioned to AAA before the season started. And then I saw him get announced on opening day. He ran down the orange carpet, making his first opening day appearance, whatever. Nick Vespi ran down the orange carpet. And I was like, that's weird. And then someone, when they were looking up the Perez injury, Nick Vespi was listed on the 15-day IL. Huh. So I am very confused. Because he hasn't pitched at all.
Yeah,
he was announced on the opening day roster, and then when someone was like looking up the Perez injury, they're like, well, maybe Nick Vespi will step in for him. It had him listed as on the 15-day IL.
I thought he was the corresponding move for Jacob Webb coming off the paternity list.
Okay, sure. I'm just confused by Vespi potentially being injured, maybe. I didn't know Jacob Webb was on the paternity list either. I was confused by that. Which is
good because you were living in the moment on opening day.
Yes,
you only would have
I
known that if you were on your phone during opening day.
That's very true. That's the phone stayed in the pocket throughout most of opening day, except to take some pictures.
Yeah, no, as in his transaction log, Nick Vespi is not on the IL. He was optioned.
Okay, so maybe it was a glitch or something like that. Who knows? So Nick Vespi not currently with the team because we haven't gotten a corresponding move for Perez yet, or even been told if Perez is going on the IL yet. Hope he's not, but that is something to keep an eye on as we go forward in the early weeks here. Game 3, Jack. Not as good as games 1 and 2. This is the game I was not at. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I just need to go to every game. Who knows? But Tyler Wells came out. Obviously, Tyler Wells starting because of the injuries to both Means and Bradish. He made the rotation. Little bit of a rough start for Tyler Wells. Early on, he gave up 4 runs between the first 2 innings, 2 runs in each inning. But he did settle in. Which is kind of Tyler Wells' style. He always seems to struggle early and then he settles down and is really good. So his final line was 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned, and no walks, 7 Ks, which for the first time in Orioles history, they had their first 3 pitchers for the season record at least 7 strikeouts, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some good ways or some good things to take out of Wells' start. Kept the pitch count low, even with a really rocky first 2 innings. Again, only 82 pitches, a lot of punch outs. And the biggest thing, like you said, he settled in. That was something that he really wasn't doing towards the end of the year or towards the middle part of the year. Last year, it would just implode on him. Things would stack up, and he wouldn't make it past the 5th inning. Rough start off the gate in this one, but he still got 6 innings, and that's like the things that down the line are gonna save your bullpen when you can get a starter who doesn't have his best stuff still past 5 innings. Only using 3 relievers in this game, I'll take that for sure. Obviously, you wish the offense has more than 3 hits.
Well, that's the big thing is everyone went cold on Sunday. Everyone it wasn't, you can't point at anyone in particular and say, well, it's their fault they lost. The whole team lost that game because when you only record 3 hits, you're not it's very hard to win a game if you don't record more than 3 hits. By the
Yeah,
way, Colton Cowser just had his second hit of the game, so he's got 2 hits and an RBI in his first start of the season.
very nice.
So Orioles lose 4-1. I hope nobody out there was panicking that loss because you're so high on the first 2 games and then suddenly you have a cold game like that. I think it just goes to show that baseball is a weird sport and it's really, really hard to beat teams 3 times in a row.
Yeah, and I will say about the pitchers for the Angels that game. Reed Detmers, a guy who was tabbed as a really high prospect when he was coming up. Had a bad year last year, but there's still flashes of like a top prospect caliber guy in that pitch arsenal, and that was shown in this game. Like, he's not a bad pitcher. Reed Detmers is not a bad pitcher. And then they brought out Soriano out of the bullpen, who was hard throwing, had a lot of moving stuff. Like, didn't look like that bad of an arm. And then an all-star Carlos Estevez came in to close the game out. No,
by the way, we're gonna talk about this later, but I just got a notice on my phone. Jackson Holliday, for the second time this season, has led off a game with a home run.
Very nice. Very nice. Speaking of home runs, there was a pretty big one hit last night.
Okay, I was at this game too.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just need to go to every single game. Yeah, so the Orioles welcome in the Kansas City Royals last night. Dean Kremer, the Dean, had office hours last night. Had one bad inning, which was the third inning. He had 3 runs that he gave up off of 2 home runs, one of which was a 440-foot bomb from Bobby Witt Jr. But his final line was 5 1/3 innings pitch, 3 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, 5 Ks. At the end of the day, that's kind of like a average Dean outing, I'd say. Nothing crazy spectacular, but also nothing that's gonna make you panic about him. What was nice is that the Orioles bullpen really kind of stepped up in this one, except for one bad mark, and we'll get there. Don't worry. But Keegan Aiken came in, and anyone that listens to this podcast knows that I am not the biggest Keegan Aiken fan in the world. But hey, you know what? He went an inning and a third, only gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and struck out 1. Yennier Cano came in, did an inning and a third, gave up 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Let me say this about the Cano outing, because Cano at one point loaded the bases. There was an intentional walk in there at one point, loaded the bases to force the double play and things like that. And ice in his veins shut that inning down. And I think Steve Maluski, who's one of the beat writers on the Orioles, he said it best, where he was like, home field advantage ? Because there were 12,000 fans in the stadium that night, and it felt like there was 30,000 fans in the stadium. And I can tell you, being there, it was loud, especially with Cano pitching and being in tight spots. But as soon as he got 2 strikes on, the entire stadium was on its feet, chanting, going crazy. Like, it really did. Like, his tweet was spot on, where it felt like there were 30,000 people there and there was only 12,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of his best work, honestly, Yennier Cano. Wiggling out of that situation. When I say, like, I'll be the first one to say, I had not a lot of confidence of him getting out of that, just based on, the control at the start of the inning, but he did settle back in. And yeah, you could tell in the broadcast it was loud in there, and it certainly did not look full. So it's encouraging to hear that 12,000 fans, or however many you said, were that loud. So moving on in this game to what everybody was talking about yesterday evening, Craig Kimbrell made his Orioles appearance to try and nail down a save in the top of the 9th. Didn't go the way that Kimbrell probably wanted it to go. It was a hit guy on first. They pinch ran for a speedster. Can't remember the name. He proceeded to steal second. He proceeded to steal third. And then there was a sac fly. Oh, yeah. I remember there was a bloop single right over.
It was a
into
bloop
left
single.
field.
Yeah, it was a bloop single. And then, yeah, which was one of those, like, just, it was in the Bermuda Triangle. Like he got the contact he wanted.
Yeah.
It just didn't go where he needed it to go.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people were down on Kimbrel and being like, well, this is why we're not going to win the division this year. And so he was the victim of some bad luck there, honestly.
Obviously, getting two bases stolen on you by the same guy in the same batter, that's on him. Like that he couldn't hold that runner on. I mean, he was pretty slow to the plate. He's notorious for getting pitch clock violations. Just doesn't hold runners well, which he really hadn't had to in his younger years because nobody was on base for that to happen. Right. So I look at this appearance. He didn't pitch bad at all. Like his stuff was effective. He got weak contact. He had 2 strikeouts. Like he's just got to hold the runners better. Yeah, there's going to be a blown save on his stat line until he gets another shot. He's going to be 0 for 1. But honestly, like I know he blew the save, but this was a pretty encouraging outing for Kimbrel just off of the stuff that he brought. You know, say what you want about the other stuff, but this was not a horrible outing, regardless of blowing the save.
And I'll say this too: when they stole third on him, it was a bang play. They had to review it, so he almost got thrown out at third. But they were talking about it on the broadcast tonight. Like this is the Royals game. The Royals are going to run all over you. They have a lot of speedsters on their team, and that's just kind of their game plan. Is they're just going to steal a lot. And so yeah, like you said, like that's one thing that Kimbrel's got to work on is he's got to hold batters better, especially when you know that the entire game plan for the Royals is going to be trying to steal as many bags as possible. Absolutely. But overall, like, yeah, I'm not down on him yet. I'm not giving up on him. I mean, think about last year with Felix early on in the season. He didn't blow a ton of saves, but he had a lot of really close calls. And, people were ready to give up on Felix last year early on. And then look what he did for the rest of the season. I'm not saying Kimbrel's going to do what Felix did last season, but I'm saying like it's game 4, right? Absolutely. We still got a long ways to go. Guys are still settling into the season and everything like that. So, we're going to get there. But it was pretty encouraging getting those 2 strikeouts and getting weak contact. That being said, though, Jack, because he blew that save, Orioles did go into the bottom of the 9th inning, tied 4-4. And who would come up to bat but one Jordan Westburg, who then proceeded to the first time ever, according to him, first time he has ever hit a walk-off, and what a walk-off it was, home run, right field.
Opposite field. Kept his hands in on a fastball, was able to drive it the other way. Barely, I mean, it was a homer to a deep part of the ballpark, but it did barely make it out. Fans held their breath to make sure that it cleared the wall. And then he took his trip around the bases, and he was fired up rounding first base. It was awesome to see.
And can I talk about too? Austin Hayes, 10 out of 10 Gatorade dumper. I don't know, watch the replay of the celebration, but he does a run by Gatorade dump that was perfectly timed to hit Jordan Westburg directly in the face as he stepped on home plate. Very impressive, if I do say so myself. Also, Jack, what we've learned is I believe we have seen the Orioles' new celebration for the year. So when they get base hits, they're revving the engines like they're on a bike, I guess. And then Cole Irvin went out and bought them black bike handlebars with orange grips. So when Mountcastle hit his home run yesterday, he apparently went through the dugout, grabbed the handlebars, and acted like he was riding through the dugout, which is okay. It's no dong, but it's okay. But I think I saw our good friend Connor Newcomb on Twitter say it best, that if handlebars are going to be the new celebration, they have to go all in and everyone has to grow handlebar mustaches. And I I will back that to my dying breath.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down for it. I like the celebration. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Jack, we're four and almost 5 games in. Orioles are currently down 4-1, top of the 9th inning. From what you have seen so far, are the O's exceeding your expectations in anything that you've read from their stat lines, anything like that? I mean, certainly offense has to be up there.
Yeah, I mean the offense is up there. It's tough to look at like counting statistics this early in the season. I feel like the most glaring, you see guys batting under 200. Not time to panic. Everybody's got to kind of find their groove to start the season. But I think the most encouraging thing is like younger guys like Jordan Westburg, like Colton Cowser, who's 2 for 3 tonight with an RBI, kind of seizing their opportunity, right? Like Westburg with the walk-off homer yesterday. Sure, he doesn't have a ton of hits yet on the year, but he's playing a good infield. And he's showing a lot of signs of promise. Colton Cowser in his first start tonight, doing pretty well. That beard is ripping, by the way. So I think that as we progress through the season, it's going to be the younger guys who are making the difference. You could say that Adley and Gunnar are both kind of like the core of the team, not really younger guys anymore, but Gunnar's still younger than 25, not really considered a vet, he still needs to occur some more service time. So I think
He's
that these young
22?
guys are going to, I think he's 23 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. God, I remember what that was like. No, I gotta say, like, I knew Burns was gonna be good. I didn't expect him to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
and I didn't expect Grayson to then follow it up with that.
Yeah.
And even Tyler Wells in what you could call a bad outing was still pretty good. Dean Kremer had an average start. Cole Irvin struggled today, but one thing that was crazy in Cole Irvin's start, his curveball, the degree on his curveball as it goes down was pretty insane, which is one of the things that he worked on all season. So the starting pitching for me has got to be something where I'm like, whoa, I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be this good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is what you hope for, right? Like when you hear about the Orioles making trades, like and they finally make that blockbuster one, this is how you want it to go. Hopefully he can continue to replicate that. But all these other blocks around Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, right? Guys like Tyler Wells, Dean Kremer, Cole Irvin, they're not like complete pushovers. Like there could be something there that could make this rotation really special and kind of save the Orioles until our top of the line guys can come back. So I think it's a great light, right? Big takeaway from the weekend and the first couple games of the season. Just a lot of stuff to build off of. I'm sold that Tony Kemp should not be an Oriole anymore.
Jonathan Heasley, by the way, did just pick off a guy at first.
Bobby Witt.
Yeah, Bobby Witt got picked off at first. Bobby Witt also was getting dominated this game. He struck out a couple times on some Cole Irvin curveballs. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that, the tough thing to talk about is where do you see improvement needed? Tony Kemp hasn't done anything. And so, I think Tony Kemp, everyone's freaking out about Tony Kemp. Again, I think this is hey, we're paying you $1 million to go in here for just a few months, hold this position spot until Jackson Holiday comes up. And then we're going to get rid of you. I thought Colton Wong was going to be that guy, but I think Colton Wong's contract was for a good bit more than $1 million. So it's a lot cheaper option for Tony Kemp. But yeah, he hasn't done anything. What about Jack? I've seen a lot of chatter about Ramon Urias, who has started off the season to a very cold 0 batting average. Does have some time on base, had an error that he reached on opening day, but not a great way to start the season. Are you ready to punt Ramon Urias out of this lineup?
It's tough for me to say that after, Tony Kemp, who's been pretty much the same as Urias at this point. Me wanting to get Tony Kemp out and not Urias. I just feel like Urias has a better track record than Kemp. And Urias could afford more games under his belt this year until you want to make a final call on that. Yeah, I mean, I was never a big Urias guy, especially coming into this year. So I'm fine to move on from Urias. But if we're not going to, give him a couple more shots, see if he can replicate what he did a couple years ago.
Here's my thing. I think you're absolutely right. Ramon Urias has a better track record than Tony Kemp. I play MLB The Show. I would not claim to be good at MLB The Show, but I play MLB The Show. And you know how many times when I'm playing Road to the Show that I have like an 0-for-4 game, like 3 games in a row? It's more than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, that's bad. 3 games in a row.
But like the point of that is baseball's a hard game, and slumps happen. There have been guys that have gone through worse slumps than 3 bad games in a row, right? So I'm not ready to give up on Urias. I think he's just starting off cold. Cedric Mullins, I mean, yeah, he had a home run on opening day, but he's starting off a little cold. Like it all will average out eventually. I'm not saying Urias is going to average out where he's going to be an all-star or anything, but it'll average out where it's the same Ramon Urias we've seen for the past 3 years.
I think the main takeaway from this is it's hard to gauge what somebody's value is within the first week of the season.
Yes, very much so. And I think we will see Ramon Urias anyways when Jackson Holliday comes up. He will go to exactly what we talked about him being, which is going to be the bench player who has spot starts and everything like that. Jordan Westburg is playing well to start the season. A lot of people are comparing him this early in the season to a JJ Hardy-esque player, which I think is a pretty good comparison. And the great thing about Westburg is he can play anywhere on the left side of the infield, and he doesn't care where he plays. So if Holliday comes up and plays second and Westburg goes to third, like, great, love it. And he's ready for it. So, I think Urias would be a great bench player, but right now he's getting a lot of starts because we don't have any better options up here. Speaking of Jackson Holliday, I have on here, Jack, a little segment that I'm going to call every week the Holiday Countdown, where we are just going to kind of look at what the number one prospect in all of baseball is doing. And as we see his road to Baltimore get closer and closer to coming to an end. And before I read these stats out, Jack, I just want to ask you, are you prepared to apologize to Jackson Holliday for saying that he was right to start in AAA?
No, I mean, this is just proving that, he needed some more time to develop, right? See some more pitching. And, the pitching that he saw was pretty early on. And it seems that he has developed in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, game 1, first at bat, Jackson Holliday hit a home run, ended up being a triple shy of the cycle. Coming into tonight, he had 5 hits, 2 doubles, 1 home run, 5 RBIs, only 2 strikeouts, 357 average, 1089 OPS. And as I said earlier in the game, we've already gotten a notification that in the first at bat of tonight's game for Norfolk, he hit another home run. So go ahead and add that to his stat line as well. Do you think that expedites his timeline at all, Jack? Or do you think Mike Elias already knows exactly when he wants to bring Jackson Holliday up?
I think he knows. I think he knows when he wants to be brought up, because if you're not going to start him on the Major League club, even though he won't outright say it because it's against the Players Association rules, that they're going to manipulate the service time and wait till that threshold so that he doesn't start occurring a full year. So whatever that date is, in late April, early May, it's going to be beyond that. So yeah, but mistakes happen. Maybe he didn't need to develop, and who knows? They've only played 3 games. He could regress a little bit, or he could keep breaking out the way he is.
So as we say that, game has ended. Orioles did lose 4-1. So the Orioles are currently on the season 3-2. Go for the rubber match tomorrow against the Royals. It is supposed to rain all day tomorrow, but the Royals don't have an off day for basically another week, so they have to get the game in. We'll see what exactly happens with that. I think it's supposed to be a day game tomorrow. Might get pushed to a night game. We'll find out. I will say before we end here, Jack, last night I went to the game and I decided to eat dinner at the game and was in the mood for some Krabby Fries from Jimmy's Famous Seafood. And let me tell you, when you get some Krabby Fries on a night where there's only 12,000 fans in the stadium, those workers at Jimmy's Famous Seafood hook you up.
Yeah.
They loaded up those Krabby Fries, man. It was heavy. It was heavy as I was carrying it to my seat. It was like literally I was carrying it with 2 hands because it was heavy and it was warm on a cold night. A nice warm thing of Krabby Fries. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Now the only thing we need is to not have the most expensive beer in baseball.
Yes, which Forbes came out with a investigation into baseball of the most profitable franchises over the past couple years. Orioles were top 3 most profitable.
$11 for a Bud Light.
Yeah,
never great.
So with our previous ownership, the whole, we can't afford to keep these young players around and all that stuff. Most profitable team in baseball, Baltimore Orioles. So it's not that you couldn't, it's that you wouldn't. So David Rubenstein, who I know is a listener of this show, obviously, this is my plea to you to not go that route. Let's get some extensions out there.
Yes, sir.
Jack, anything for the order before we sign off tonight?
I think you owe everybody an apology for your connectivity this evening.
Yeah, I'm sure I've been jumping around a bit. I've been watching the bar. So I do apologize for the connectivity this evening. It's raining and my internet doesn't like when it rains. Thanks, Comcast.
Other than that, though, thank you everybody for listening, watching on any platform that you find yourself listening to us on. It's going to be a fun season. I'm excited to bring you guys content every week. Remember to like, subscribe, whatever platform, download. We appreciate it all the same. Leave a review if you don't mind.
And don't forget to go to birdlandsports.com. Use code UPodStreet at checkout for 10% off your order. With that, we'll see you guys next week. As always, let's go O's.
Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.